As self-employed homesteaders, we get to spend every day together.
Every day. All day.
Day after day.
After day after day. Hey everybody, welcome back to Living Traditions Homestead. This is Kevin and Sarah. Well, you know, part of being full-time homesteaders is spending a lot of time together. And we have people ask us all the time, how do you guys spend so much time together and still get along? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today.
So let us give you a little back history, a little of our story about what we feel set us up to get along really well on the homestead as full-time homesteaders that spend every day, every moment together. Kevin and I started dating when we were 19 years old, and by the time we were 22, we were married. We essentially have spent our entire adult lives together, and we are super close, and we're best friends.
There was a time in our marriage where we're kind of chasing after all of the typical, things that young couples chase after. We were both, going full steam ahead on our careers. We were trying to get, the biggest house that we could get. We were trying to...
the biggest salaries we could get.
Right. And because of that, we found that as a couple, we were just kind of bored with our lives.
We were kind of growing apart. We made a conscious effort, and we made a decision actually, that rather than doing those things and developing interests outside of our relationship, that we were going to learn what we had in common, what interests we enjoyed together, and to find things to do together.
Right. Instead of doing things that excluded the other person, we wanted to do things that would include both of us. And that's really where our path toward becoming homesteaders started. We really didn't ever just wake up one morning and be like, hey, we want to be homesteaders. It started about the time that our first daughter was born. Mm-hmm. That year we decided, hey, let's plant a garden. And it was something that we could do together, we could do with our new baby, and it just kind of was one of those things that kind of brought us closer together.
Right, and that really evolved into more gardening together, bigger gardens. We started learning about canning together, and we canned, grape jelly was the first thing we ever canned
right.
In general.
If you haven't seen the video just recently where Sarah teaches how to make grape jelly, I'll put a link up there.
Yeah, that's the first thing we ever canned. We did it together actually.
Right.
And we got chickens together, and we really decided that that was a lifestyle for us. But we've told this story several times in different videos, but the point is we made an effort to find things that we love to do together, which happened to end up being this lifestyle.
And now that we are together all the time, we still have to make those decisions all the time about, should we do something together or should we do something separately? Now, we're not saying that every day on the homestead we're like right next to each other, working on every project right together.
Hand in hand.
Right, we're not holding hands while we skip out to feed the chickens and here's a little secret. We argue like any other married couple, but we've learned through time and through experience, we're going on 20 years of marriage now, mm-hmm. that when we get in those situations, we rely on each other,
right.
and we rely on our faith to bring us through to strengthen our marriage. So I know what you're asking yourselves. Thanks for the marriage advice, but how does this help us with homesteading?
Because we have the same interests, we have common interests, we both want to learn all of the same skills. Even though we each have our own chores or each have our own primary responsibilities, we wouldn't mind if the other one, or if we had to jump in on something that's not necessarily always our responsibility. So there's a lot less opportunity for resentment or expectations that
right.
we don't want put on ourselves or each other.
Right. Like for example, typically Sarah takes care of the rabbits, but I really enjoy working with the rabbits as well. So if there's a day where she's busy or just, needs an extra hand, I don't mind at all going out to help her, feed the rabbits, give them water, all of that stuff. And vice versa, I'm typically in charge of the chickens and the meat chickens when we raise those. But again, because she's interested in those too, she doesn't mind helping out. So It doesn't become this battle of, well, I do this much work and you do this much work and
I'm doing more than you.
Right. Or my work's done, so I'm not gonna do anymore. That's all your job.
Right.
We just don't have those battles because we look at it as a team effort. And even though we each have our individual roles, ultimately we don't mind coming together for what's best for our homestead in general.
We know each other's limitations and we know our own limitations, and we're able to just kind of jump in there to help the other person out, and know when, I can't do this part of this project, I'm not physically able to or whatever, and can you come and help me? So we don't really have a magic formula that will tell you how to position your marriage to make sure that you are a successful homesteading team. And we don't have a specific formula that says whether or not you're ready for that step.
And that'll be different for every married couple. You just know between the two of you how strong your relationship is and whether or not it can take the stresses of living a full-time homesteading life. A lot of people have this very kind of fantasy picture of what being homesteaders will be, that they're going to move out to the country and that they're going to raise their own food, they're going to have their own garden and all of this, and all of that is great, and all of that are by far the best parts of homesteading. But in that fantasy, you never think about the fact that there's still money that needs to be made and spent.
And problems that you'll have to work through.
Right. So can you take the stress of, everything that life throws at you, plus, being together all the time, and trying to keep it all together to have a successful homestead. It's a lot of hard work, but totally worth it, and totally worth all of the effort that goes into it.
So if you haven't already sat down as a couple and come up with your plan, how are we going to do this? Not just how are we going to buy this, but when problems come up, what are we going to do? If you don't have the same interests, what interests do you have that are the same that you can really develop and incorporate into your relationship and into your homestead?
Right, and not just big picture interests like, oh, we both like homesteading. Well, that's great, but are there parts of homesteading that one of you doesn't like? If one person isn't on board, most of the time we just don't do it.
Yes.
Especially on bigger things that are going to cost a lot of money or a lot of time investment.
Right.
We just tend to stay away from those things because we don't ever want there to be a day where one person is feeling resentful toward the other.
Right.
And those things just cause problems that don't need to be there.
Absolutely.
So find the things that you have in common, find the interests that you have in common, and go after those. I guarantee if you examine your marriage, there's lots of things that you guys have in common. So, take a look at those and figure those out.
And don't forget to talk to each other. As uncomfortable as that can be, don't forget to talk to each other and talk rather than
yell. Right.
Yeah.
So you guys, I hope that this has been a little bit encouraging for you. I hope it got you thinking just a little bit, maybe about a subject that, isn't brought up a lot amongst homesteaders. But we really think it is an important topic to think about. So if this is your first time here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button before you leave. Also, don't forget to comment and share. And until next time, you guys, thanks for stopping by the homestead. God bless.
God bless.